welcome to absolutely... Oh, no. That's what you get. Hey, everybody, welcome to Absolute Comics. I am Sal, and I'm joined today by the intrepid second fiddle, second banana, sidekick Dan. Dan is here, Uber producer, and incredible host. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dan, and filling in for Benny, who is busy right now, but with important marital business.
Very important. I've never heard second banana.
Oh no! Oh, that's
I've never heard that, but I like it.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all kinds of comic book news, comic book TV news that Dan was kind enough to scour the internet to pull up. But before we do, I want to mention that, of course, this show, like every show, is sponsored by Jew Fuel, and if you use the code COMICS at checkout, you can save yourself at least 10% on your next order. So check out that drink, which I have had and I enjoy. So I'm happy to shill for them. Why not? Let's jump into it, Dan. What's happening in the world of comics or comic book related media today that we can sink our teeth into?
Oof. So the first one I've got for us is The Flash on CW. We are finally getting a conclusion to The Flash next year with season 9.
Just putting a bullet between its eyes, eh?
It's honestly, it's long overdue. This should have happened a while ago. I am honestly kind of excited. Because Flash has not been great for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you finally have that true we are finishing moment, you can go all out. You don't have to go, well, we want to save this for maybe a future storyline, or we don't want to touch that in case we want to. No, you can just do anything and everything you want, bring in any characters that you want, kill whoever you want. It does not matter because this is the end.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch the first couple episodes. This past season has not been good and did not really get my hopes up that this show was going to get good.
Yeah.
But
what are you going to do with yourself now that the show is ending and you're not going to have the starring role as the Flash?
Well, I've been trying to weasel my way into the movie scene. Hopefully I'll get more people on the internet to sign some
petitions,
website petitions to get me that job.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. I think Grant Gustin would do a decent job as Johnny Storm. If Marvel's not pulling him, or if DC's not pulling him, Marvel would be happy to take him.
I can see that, actually.
Right? Everybody wants Steve Harrington, and I'm like, don't ruin him. Give him, let him at least do the last season of Stranger Things before we put him through the meat grinder that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. So did you watch the CW Flash at all, or
a little bit? I watched the first season and I was like, I couldn't. I was like, this is fine. Like I got it, but it like in no way felt like the Superman and Lois show. In some ways, feels a little less like your traditional CW Arrowverse show.
Right.
There were moments where you're like, okay, here we go, but by and large, it felt like it was trying to be its own thing, have its own identity. Flash felt like just another run-of-the-mill CW series with like, here's your fun, colorful characters, and they're all gonna like they all seem fun and silly, but I'll bet some of them have really dark secrets, or they're unhappy, or they're gonna like sleep with each other, or whatever. I just couldn't. Also, the woman who plays Iris in the first episode, I was like, she is so terrible. Like I was like, this is a really bold move, getting someone who literally can't act to be like your female lead of this show. And I remember saying that when the show debuted, and then people being like, how dare you insult the actress whose name I don't know who played Iris.
Candice Patton.
Thank you, Candice Patton. But I still stand by it. She's real bad.
No, she is. She's bad enough that in the second to last episode of this past season, she seemingly got killed. And I was so happy about it.
It's like, she's Iris.
Like, yes!
She's the lead. She's the one you want Barry to be with. And they're like,
it literally, and then they start up the next one. They're like, oh, she didn't actually die, and we were just like, no,
Damn it.
We almost got rid of her. But no, I'm actually kind of excited. I'm just excited to see how it ends because Flash, Flash and Arrow were the two main Arrowverse
guiding
shows.
stars.
They were the ones that
they were the
carrying
anchor.
it.
They carried the show. Or they carried the universe.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting seeing how the Flash ends and how everything looks without them. I'm wondering if the Superman and Lois people knew about this prior, because I believe at the end of this past season, they did actually confirm that it's not the same universe.
Yeah,
they're not in the Arrowverse, which if this is the news, it kind of makes sense why you would want to go, let's just separate ourselves from that before any of that goes down.
Is this the end of the Arrowverse? Is Flash the last one? Supergirl's over, right?
I think this is the last one.
Okay,
Because
good.
I don't think Batwoman's still going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that show's
Arrow's
over, too.
done. Legends of Tomorrow, I think, is done as well.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the last one. So it's kind of nice that it is the last one. Nothing
right, it's
else
not like
is
it's
going
Legends
on.
Tomorrow, which is a little bit divisive. It's not like
Right.
Batwoman is the last one, where it's like, just end it.
Where everyone later on is going to be like, no, it ended before that. We don't talk about Batwoman. That one just doesn't exist. It's like the last season of Scrubs. We just ignore it.
Please.
Pretend it never happened.
Absolutely.
But it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see how they do it. I hope they give it a good send-off. I really hope this isn't hey, we had this great property. It was great for a while, and we really just drove it straight into the ground.
It's a real shame. I hope it has a good send-off. If it is the last one, if it's the end of the Arrowverse, I hope it's it's the end of an era. This is for many people their own MCU. This is they had crises and invasions and whatnot, and it's dude, this is a big deal for it to be the swan song for the Arrowverse. But I kind of hope it's the end. Every time that another one of these shows came out, people were always like, oh my God, this is going to be the best one. And then it would always be terrible. It would always go in the direction of well, we got a lot of TV writers. They want to write about relationships. They can't make the show look good, but they want the money for it. I don't know. I hope it's the end of an era. I hope it's
Right.
This is the end. That there's no more CW after this, much less that there's no more CW shows.
Yeah.
I genuinely hope it's all right, now let's start focusing on, not that HBO Max has really given a great template or roadmap for what to do, but at least there's stuff like Doom Patrol and the Harley Quinn show that are good. Just good shows. There's no season you have to skip in order to like it. It's just doing what it wants to do. Superman and Lois is the only kind of holdout, but like they said, they're trying very much to distance themselves, and I think that's definitely indicative of the feeling that I'm having, where it's just stop. If you want to make superhero related media, make it for the app. If you want to move it to the shows, if you want to move it to CW, fine, but let people who make this make it. Don't bother, but
yeah. Hopefully they're going to give everyone a good send-off. They really kind of finalize all the characters. Maybe bring in some of the old ones. Maybe.
Do you think Steve Amell's going to pop in? I know he hates the show. I know he's
I
hate everything about this, and I don't want to do anything ever again.
Yeah, I could see maybe him coming back for a flashback episode or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's potential for both directions with this final season.
Yeah.
But speaking of shows and different crossovers, we had the MCU Secret Invasion synopsis comes out, which teases that the show is going to be a crossover event series spanning the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the paranoia of an alien infiltration grips it.
What the hell does that mean?
The
the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a crossover. What does that mean?
I feel like this is them kind of saying, you know how, like, whenever we talked about the Deadpool stuff and we made the jokes of, hey, what if, like, they showed scenes from other movies and then had Deadpool doing something in the background?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is them saying, we're going to do that, but we're going to show the Skrulls in the different positions and who they were playing as, and, like, manipulating situations because they were playing as someone else.
I love that. I'd be very okay with that. If it's like the way that Secret Invasion, the comic series, happened, where, and by comic series I mean comic event, where they kind of like looked back and showed you who was who, when, and how that fits into the Secret Invasion. I mean, that'd be so awesome, especially if it was like really well executed. It would forgive the fact that we don't need like Chris Evans to come back or Robert Downey Jr. to do a cameo. And I feel like that'd be kind of wasting their cameos if you were to like shove them into a show that didn't get nearly as many cheers as all the other stuff in like Phase 5.
Right.
But by the same token, Secret Invasion's a cool concept and has terrific potential, even though we're kind of like in the multiverse era where it's like our main players are other realities, actors from other movies, and like Kang. So to also go, oh, by the way, also Skrulls, and like this is messed up. It feels like almost an afterthought. I hope it isn't. But I also am worried that it's going to be like the Age of Ultron, where it's like, so then you remember that time that like a robot attacked everybody and then died? Like that has nothing to do with anything. He wasn't, you know what I mean? Like that's
right.
It has no bearing on anything. I don't know, but I like that they're bringing in, that Nick Fury's going to have a lot more to do. I like the idea that it's like linked in with the Captain Marvel Skrulls stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be really cool to see some flashbacks to like all these different, Avengers and other movies kind of thing. Like who else is a Skrull? Is Luis a Skrull? I don't know.
Oh my God. That would be great. Like if you could very easily just like use scenes that already exist.
Yeah.
And then just continue it a little after and show, oh, it turned out that guy was a Skrull. And then now he's talking to Nick Fury, who's like, perfect. We needed that to happen so that we can set this in motion so we can go and do this. Like, when I read this, like, that's where my mind went. Like, kind of they're going to really weave it in to make it make sense that they have been here all along.
Yeah.
Like, they have been here for a long time. It's not just, hey, magic. They're here now. Like,
right. No, they've always been there.
Questions it.
Exactly. No, I love this idea. And do you have any theories about anyone who might have always been or has been a Skrull for at least the last few appearances?
I feel like there are. I can't think of like any specific names, but like I'm just thinking of different scenarios, and I feel like some of the people in WandaVision that were like maybe working on Vision and like his corpse and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if some of them were Skrulls kind of trying to get that technology, or potentially maybe one of the science assistants in Wakanda.
Oh. Yeah.
Like really show how deep they have gotten like in just everything on Earth.
Right, because it would be really cool to have the same level of infiltration that happened in the comics, where it's like the Skrulls didn't just infiltrate like S.H.I.E.L.D. They infiltrated Hydra and villain organizations and the Avengers. Like they infiltrated significant arms of like every corner of the Marvel universe had a Skrull in it. And I think they also tried to retcon that like the 50-state initiative that came out of Civil War was actually the Skrulls' idea, so they would have a Skrull implanted in every state. That maybe Sword itself is a Skrull idea, that they're like, no, we need to get this whole thing moving so that we can, because there's no more S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So it's like we need some kind of organization that runs everything so that we can continue to run everything. Are the Skrulls even doing it negatively? Are they bad guys? Do they consider themselves heroes? I know that the Skrull Empress, who's like a religious fundy in the comics, I think she's in this, and I think it's the theory was it's Emilia Clarke. I don't know if that's still true, but I know Vernaki or whatever is supposed to be in the show, and so I think that they are gonna. It's like a sect of Skrulls who are kind of like believe the Earth is meant to be theirs. The other thing that like could imply larger ramifications of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the Skrulls only wanted Earth when they lost their homeworld to Galactus. Mm-hmm. So is Galactus going to eat their homeworld? Like, are we going to have a thing where they're like, well, we lost our homeworld? But, like, I think that they were already displaced in Captain Marvel, so they've already kind of been, like, you know, the alien trash of the galaxy, so to speak.
Right. I mean, they could very easily, like, do it as one of those, like, just kind of not straight up say it, but like, oh, well, we lost our planet when a giant alien being ate it. Like, yeah. And we had to find somewhere to go. Because, like, then you get to use something like that and, like, just plant those seeds. I feel like that's what Secret Invasion, the entire purpose really is going to be, is just the planting of seeds in so many different parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
That I'm very excited. Were there any that
Me too.
Like, you are kind of hoping is a Skrull, or you think might be?
I expect Darcy to be a Skrull because, like, she seemingly has no bearing on the, like, world, but also is a beloved character, and so it would affect the world around it to make that work. So I expect that to be a thing. At least that's like a theory. If I had to throw out a character, I would hate for it to be like an Avenger. I don't want to see like Rhodey was a Skrull the whole time or something like that. Although it would be a great way to have to like retcon out his paralysis. Be like, oh no, Rhodey's been a Skrull since before Civil War.
Right.
Like that's a Skrull that hurt himself.
See, and that's the great part is like you could do that. You can mini retcon characters or kind of reset some characters by just simply going, no, we kidnapped that person. We took their place. They're currently in like this containment tube.
Yeah.
And that would be a good way to, okay.
Right?
I like that.
And you get like, because we don't really see Rhodey react to the death of his best friend, Tony Stark, really. And it'd be kind of cool for him to like come out of the fog and be like, well, we'll just call Tony, and it's like, oh, Tony friggin' died, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, for him to, like, actually, you know, because Don Cheadle's a good actor, to like get him to really react to that for a minute and really, like, focus on that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I like that idea. I like that a lot, actually.
Right? You can squeeze a couple of drops out of that papaya. But yeah, so I'm hyped. I mean, I'm hyped. Even though we haven't seen like we've seen a logo and maybe like a picture of Nick Fury with a beard. Like that's it. And still, like, yeah.
I mean, look, Nick Fury and like Samuel L. Jackson, like he's such a good actor, and has also such like sway in Hollywood and all of that I feel like you can feel a little more confident in the show because I don't feel like he would be one to go, oh yeah, I'm gonna put my name on this terrible property. Like he will be one to be like, no, we're gonna do it this way. Yeah, because I mean the guy is Nick Fury at this point. Like, it's,
right? Oh yeah, and he's happy to be Nick Fury. Like he himself has said things like, what was it? I'd rather be Nick Fury than try and go for an Oscar at this point. Mm-hmm. Like I'd rather be Nick Fury until I die, than like try and chase that gold. And I'm like, cool. Okay. You're still Samuel L. Jackson. Like you'll be remembered and revered. You're great. Give the man a Lifetime Achievement Oscar and just let him be Nick for the next like 10 years.
I would love that. But so that show sounds pretty promising. Marvel did release the first clip of the She-Hulk show.
I watched that.
I'm not sure if you saw that. We've got She-Hulk and the Hulk training on an island. It's just giving a quick look at kind of the relationship between the two, and just that the Hulk is showing her how to be a Hulk, basically, and the way that I got it was like how to control your anger and not become a villain in the eyes of the world.
Yeah, well, like I think the way I saw it, it looked to me like he's trying to train her to like responsibly use her strength. You know, because when he was Hulk without Banner, it was just a rage monster, and when he became like Professor Hulk or or Smart Hulk or whatever you want to call him, pre-Endgame, like during that 5-year window, like it took him 5 years to like learn the body as Banner. And so he's seeing her inherit this strength and this new kind of persona, but also retain her identity. He's like, you're going to have to like learn like how to be a Hulk while also not being able to escape responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
Because like you're going to have to learn how to like hold cups and open doors, but also be a hero because there are so few of them, or at least we lost the ones that we can point to on a lunchbox, and so you're it now, which is fun because also, of course, she's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in being a hero. I just want to be a lawyer. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm down to watch that journey.
I am too. I will say I'm not super happy with the way that the characters look. I don't like. I feel like they look too soft. Like when I think Hulk, I think like basically bodybuilder. I think like super, super strong, very defined muscles, and neither of them had that. Like I felt like neither Hulk or She-Hulk had that, and it made it feel less like I was watching two Hulks talk to each other and more just a large green guy and a green girl talking to each other.
I mean, that's what they've done to those characters at this point, is just gone like, this is who they are. They need to be more like relatable. I mean, like She-Hulk should always feel like a character talking who very much retains their identity. I think the reason is just simply Universal isn't playing ball and Marvel isn't interested in paying Universal whatever it costs to get it. Like, I think that the way Marvel looks at the Hulk, they like, we are happy to use the Hulk, but any significant changes to the Hulk that would result in like a Hulk-centric story, we're not interested in making without also owning it all. And so like the Hulk is going to be Mark Ruffalo for the foreseeable future. Like it's just going to be this dude mocapping the Hulk, without there being any significant changes. Like we're not going to see Betty show up in this show. Like we're not going to get Liv Tyler to come back for this. We were able to use General Ross because we needed like a militaristic scapegoat throughout the series, and that was kind of a fun callback, but we're not going to do like Hulk. Because the thing is, there could have been at any point a sequence, because General Ross, of course, was at odds with the Avengers until, William Hurt's passing, but also until like the Endgame kind of like derailed all other narrative, journeys for the Avengers. Right. But it would have been really cool in Civil War, because of course Hulk's gone. He's on Sakaar, I guess, at that point. But like, though nobody knows that, for General Ross to talk to the Avengers, and he's given them a hard time about the Sokovia Accords and whatnot, for his main reason being, you all thought that the Hulk was a good idea to be on your team, and I hate that guy. Like, you don't get that Ross is a Hulk character who is obsessed with the Hulk. That's his whole personality, is hating Bruce Banner and wanting him dead. But you don't get that in this universe outside of the one Hulk movie they made. So I feel like Marvel's like always very careful to like sidestep what could be a direct narrative Hulk story. And it's a shame, because I think you could, like, I'm not interested in seeing Hulk movies. I saw the 1, 2 really, and I was good. And if you had told me that halfway through the first Hulk movie, Iron Man shows up in the Veronica armor, I would have paid you double to see that movie. That's the kind of movie I'm interested in, is like Hulk by way of the Marvel Universe. But, they can't do that. Or at least they can't make Hulk-centric films. And so we're kind of just stuck in this, Hulk is a beloved character who can't do anything terribly significant in the Marvel Universe, because otherwise that could be considered a Hulk movie, and we don't want to make that movie.
Right. So do you think they'll use Hulk in the show outside of this island training? Because I kind of got the vibe that they were just going to go, hey, they're going to do this, and then she's going to leave, and he's just going to chill on this island because classic Hulk, he wants to be left alone.
Right. Well, because we don't have Like,
and we can't use him really.
We don't know what to do with him yet. Like, Hulk will naturally be in an Avengers movie, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna do, but we don't know what that's gonna look like. So let's just put him on an island somewhere. And I think you're right. I think that's exactly what we're gonna do with him. I hope so, because I like She-Hulk stories divorced from Hulk.
Yeah,
like, I'm very okay with that.
She's a much better character when she is her own character as opposed to a Hulk character.
Totally. Absolutely. No, and linking her with Blonsky, the Abomination, like, I think that's great, and it's a great like setup for her. But for me, She-Hulk for me as a comic book fan, She-Hulk has always been more of an Avenger than a Hulk supporting character, despite her name, the derivation of her powers, and her connection with Bruce Banner. Like, I've always considered her more of an Avenger than like a Hulk supporting cast member, and honestly, so has Marvel. So,
oh yeah,
I'm okay with this, and apropos of how they look and how they like move and stuff, in that one clip we got, I was just engaged in the scene. Like, I was happy just to see these characters interact and to enjoy it, and that's what I was hoping would happen with this show. Like, it's not going to look perfect. It's not going to look great. It's going to look fine, passable, and as long as the actors are good and the story's engaging, won't matter. And that's what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah. So speaking of the Hulk, and we got the second movie with Thor.
Yeah.
Going on to our next topic. Thor Love and Thunder is now officially the lowest rated Thor movie on Rotten Tomatoes. It's currently sitting at 65%, with Dark World at 66%, the first Thor at 77%, and Thor Ragnarok at 93%.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I saw this, I was not shocked that it was low.
Right.
I was a little shocked that it's being considered
the worst
than Dark World.
Yeah, I mean, Dark World's always been Marvel's like scapegoat. Like, that's been the movie that everyone's like, well, at least it's not Thor to Dark World, which
exactly
is still pretty entertaining. Like, it's not high art, but it's also not like dumb. You know? And I actually just saw, like, before we started shooting, that sequence from the opening. It was a sequence that I was kind of like critical of recently. I was talking to somebody about it the other day, where I was like, there's this whole CG fight sequence with the Guardians and with Hulk or Thor, and I was like, man, this looked very expensive, but because there was no tension, there was no stakes, and I knew that nothing I was looking at happened. Like, it was all in a computer from an overworked, underpaid person. I was like, I don't care about anything I'm looking at. Like the owl creatures, like, you know, squawking at each other on their motorcycles. I was like, I don't care about anything I'm looking at. And that was how I felt when I saw that sequence. But then I saw the sequence again, and it was that scene where Thor like kicks both of the motorcycles and he does the split. And like they hold on it for, I don't know, like 45 minutes. And I was like, this is dumb.
Right.
Like, I get that it's supposed to be funny, and maybe if it was only like 10 to 15 seconds, that would have been funny. But it's just kind of long and dumb, and that's how a lot of scenes were in that movie. Like, whenever I think about being critical of Thor Love and Thunder, I immediately think of the entire gods sequence.
Right.
Because I'm just like, I didn't like anything that happened in that sequence. Like, there was no sequence or moment in that sequence where I'm like, that was really cool, or that was really fun, or I really like what I just saw. Everything about it, I'm like, I don't like anything I'm looking at. I don't like the Zeus stuff. I don't like the fact that we only look at the gods for 2 seconds. I don't like the fact that, like, we're here at all. I don't like this place. I don't like the idea behind it. I don't like the execution, or like the lack of stakes, or the killing of Zeus and how nonchalant it was. Like, I don't like anything I'm looking at. And it's a shame, because you could tell that, like, they're making it with joy and they're really enjoying it. But, like, and I think when I first saw it, I was like, I guess this is fun, but it would be hard to get me to watch this movie ever again.
Right.
And, like, I've seen Thor the Dark World, like, maybe twice, more like 1.5 times, you know, because, like, one time it was on TV, and I think it was already, like, halfway through, and I was like, all right, I'll watch it. But, like, once Malekith started talking, I'm like, all right, well, that's the end of that. So, I don't know. I was like, wow. So to tell, you know, us that, like, it's the lowest rated Thor movie. I'm like, yeah. I mean, review bombing aside, I would never watch this movie ever again.
Yeah. I feel like one of the biggest things, because you can tell that with Love and Thunder, with all the jokes and all of that, you can really tell that they were like, hey, people loved how funny and entertaining and lighthearted Ragnarok was.
Yeah.
And that's true. But the difference between Thor Ragnarok and Love and Thunder is Thor Ragnarok had a bit more serious parts to it.
Yep.
It had more emotion, and it had like an actual story and real plot.
It was balanced. It was
exactly. It was a good balance. Exactly. Yeah. Like that's a much better way to say it. Whereas Love and Thunder kind of felt almost like a Family Guy joke.
Yeah.
Where you make the joke, then you go a little too long, and then you go almost long enough that you hope it gets funny again. And I felt like Love and Thunder kind of missed that funny again, or kind of shied off and were like, oh no, just kidding.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go too far.
Yeah. It was the kind of movie. I don't have any like conspiracy theories about this movie. Like I don't think there was an agenda. I don't think that there was like a, whatever the negative detractors for this movie are that don't like think about film criticism or stories and structure. But I will say, like, seeing how Waititi treated the press tour and seeing him on set during behind-the-scenes sequences, like, it seemed, I don't know, for me, it felt like most of the movie was shot with the second unit. Like, it felt like it was just like, well, he's not here, so we're just going to do whatever it says on the page and just, like, hope for the best. And it's just, I don't know, it's like an SNL sketch that went on too long. There's no stakes to it. Like, it almost felt like Star Trek Beyond, where it's like Star Trek Beyond felt like just like the Kelvin timeline of Star Trek movies. The first two, they're like, the first one's setting the universe, so it's really important. And then the second one is like, it's also an allegory for 9/11, so it's got to be like really serious. And you're like, okay, like it's the most important thing, plus Khan. And then Beyond is like, what should have been the second movie, because it's just kind of like, well, there's some roly-poly aliens and they're driving dirt bikes and the crew separated and they're all gonna like build a team. Like it's a little chapter, like a little one-off, like the Whales movie, where it's like, oh, that's fun. That's what this movie felt like, where it's like it's about the kids. Like the kids got kidnapped by the big scary bad guy and Thor's got to save them. And at no point are the children actually afraid, because every time they might be afraid, Thor checks in on them using holographic technology. Like,
yeah,
and then the children get superpowers because like power fantasy, but not like 80s power fantasy where you imagine you're the protagonist, but rather that the protagonist has now given you his powers. It's not very good. It's not a very good movie, and the more I think about it, the more I don't like it, but not like in a way where I'm like, oh, they ruined it. Like they could just say, that was a really stupid adventure I went on. The only thing they can't unmake is the fact that Thor now has an adopted daughter. Like that's something you can't unmake. You can't unring that bell now.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is like put her in daycare or age her up like they always do, but like, yeah, that's the thing, is that I didn't really enjoy this story, but I also don't like the status quo of Thor at the end either. So, like, what's there to like?
I can tell. I will say one thing that was nice about it is you could really tell Chris Hemsworth enjoyed himself. Like, because I'm pretty sure one of his stipulations with Thor was, like, he didn't want to do serious. Like, he only wanted to do the fun, lighthearted Thor, and you can very much tell.
Oh, yeah, because there is no moment where Thor actually, like, needs to be taken seriously.
There's no seriousness in it. Like,
I mean,
even
like,
on the
literally
parts where he's supposed to and people are dying, he's like, oh, well, let me talk to my hammer.
Right. Like, my girlfriend is literally dying of cancer. Like, this is the most serious it could possibly be, and we are given exactly 4 seconds to deal with that. And I wasn't expecting an adaptation of Aaron and Ribbick's book. I wasn't expecting the God Butcher on screen. I think a lot of people were, because they were using gore, and it's like, dude, you know who's making this movie, right? Like, you know why Hemsworth's still around, right? Like, because he doesn't want to be the stick in the mud Thor that he was for the first two movies and also the first Avengers movie. He wants to be funny and indulgent. Like, he liked making that Ghostbusters movie that he's in.
Yeah.
It's really bad, but he liked being in it, and that's how they get him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't surprise me that it's low rated, but I think that a lot of people are also suffering from what I'm suffering from, where it's like, I guess I enjoyed that. Like, I guess that was fun. There were a couple of fun moments, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I didn't want any of the things we got.
Right. Like, I didn't not enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't like gritting my teeth and like gnashing my my nails together. It wasn't like you know.
But I definitely didn't enjoy it like Ragnarok, which I have watched multiple times and will probably watch it
again.
Again, maybe even a couple more times, because it just had the good balance of everything. And this one just didn't have the best balance. But I mean, 65% though, still better than a lot of movies out there.
Better than average. I don't know. I hope that it because I liked Eternals, and I think that it sent the wrong message to Marvel, where they're like, don't do that. Don't be like, don't go off the beaten path, And I don't think that's the lesson. And I don't think the lesson to be learned from this is like, we can't make comedic Marvel movies. We can't trust our directors to be creative. I think it's more just like, have oversight, Like I also am glad we didn't get a situation like with the Solo movie, where like halfway through production, I think it was Lawrence Kasdan like called mommy and daddy and we're like, they're making a stupid improv comedy out of Han Solo. We gotta fix this. And then they like spent the equivalent of an entire movie budget to fix it. And what they got was a movie that I actually kind of like, but is two movies at the same time that couldn't possibly please everybody. So I'm glad they didn't spend like a $400 million to make a Thor 4. We didn't need this movie at all. I know we just basically complain. I'm sorry, I don't mean to complain about this movie the whole time. But
no, that honestly, it was an okay movie. Like, it was a good movie for what it was, but it just wasn't. It kind of deserved the 65%.
It's earned. Like, they earned that 65.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next one. Second to last topic for the day. Not too many today, but so Michael Keaton came out and obviously is returning as Batman for The Flash. Whenever The Flash actually comes out, but
if it ever comes out,
it even comes out.
Based on some recent news, I feel like we might be losing a Flash movie. I think we might not get a Flash movie.
Like more like super recent, because I haven't heard anything in addition.
Check the chat. I dropped the link. It's in the chat right now. But like,
okay, I'll have to read that in a second. But
have a look. But
so the Michael Keaton thing, I thought this was actually great because he came out and he said that he came back to play Batman, not so much to be the character, but because, and quoting him, he was just curious about it socially. The whole thing is gigantic. They have their entirely own worlds. So I like to look at it as an outsider thinking, holy moly. Those were his words. And I think that's like such a great reason, because I didn't put it in here, but there was another article where I'm pretty sure Michael Keaton said that he hasn't seen any of the movies.
Yes.
Like, he hasn't seen a full DC
Marvel movies or
Marvel
DC movies. Yeah.
And so I just really like this, that he's like, you know what? I don't watch it. I'm not a part of that, but I love how interesting the world treats this world.
Yeah.
Like, this whole superhero world. And I just really liked that, and I wanted to add that in here because...
Yeah, I like it. I love Keaton's approach, because Keaton is approaching it not from... Like, he's not ancient, but he's also not a spring chicken. So he's not trying to, like, build his brand. He's Michael Keaton. He's like, it's done. I'm Michael Keaton. Like, I'm a big deal. I've got my brand. I'm good to go. But at the same time, he also is not so old that he's like, I'm not going to try new things. I'm not interested in new things. Like, he's not, like, quasi-retired. So for him, he can be like, what is this? Like, let's try it. Like, I'm young enough where I could be Batman again, and apparently people will poop their pants over it. Like, like he remembers a time when he was cast as Batman, people were mad because he's Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, and there's no way that would work.
Mm-hmm.
And then he remembers like doing one more that was really weird because his friend really had control. And then he read the script for the third one and was like, I don't want to do that. Like, he's always been like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm not gonna do that. And I love his approach. When he said he doesn't watch those Marvel and DC movies, he said, I don't have that kind of time. I got better things to do. Yeah. And I'm like, that is such a like man in his 50s, 60s response. Like, where it's I'm not gonna watch 26 movies to understand what the hell's happening. I'm not gonna watch a movie that like has themes that I pioneered in them for the sole purpose of because I pioneered. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm if you want me to be Batman again, and you're gonna pay me Batman rates, and people are gonna lose their shit over it, yeah, I'll be Batman. Yeah, especially because like I'm not gonna sign one of them Marvel contracts where I gotta be Batman 10 times. You know, I'm Batman in this, and maybe one other thing because it was fun because you cleaned up the suit and now I can turn my head and stuff. Like, I'll do that, and I love that Keaton like brings his. Like, not just cachet, because it's not like Keaton is, like, an Academy Award-winning actor who just commands You know, it's not like Anthony Hopkins is going to be in this movie, you know, which Anthony Hopkins could throw his weight around when it came to Thor and go, like, I'm not going to do any more Thor movies. I'm out, you know? Like, kill me off, I guess. Kill Odin!
Right.
But with Keaton, it's like he has this combination of being beloved and great, but also has, like, don't give an F about any of this, where he can just go, oh no, and then just walk away.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, I love that about him, and I love that as an approach, and I think it's a healthy one, and I want to see more actors have that approach to these things. Like, because then it's like there's no confusion or surprises. You know, like when Hugo Weaving signed on to be Red Skull, I'm sure Marvel and audiences expected him to be Red Skull, and for Red Skull to be like a villain in the next Captain America movie. And instead he was like, no, I just wanted to be a villain that one time. I'm good. And they're like, right. there's a penalty that you have to pay. It's like, okay, I'll just pay it. No, I won't do it anymore. And it's like, okay, great. You've just what? Right. And I love that, and I want to see that. But I also then it means that the people who are in these movies are happy to be in them, you know, and are in them because they want to do it, or because they're building their career and they want to like have a bunch of credits to their name that have like a bunch of like money attached to them. But yeah, Keaton's approach to this whole thing is phenomenal. I like it because also he doesn't like have like a carefully curated response. Like every time he does an interview about these things, it's never the same interview. It's always he always says something weird. Like the fact that he likes the idea that he lives in this, like he wants to observe the world from the outside. Like, how could you possibly watch it from the outside? You're in it, man. Right. You're literally Batman in that movie. You're not watching it from the outside, but he doesn't know what that means. And he's just like, whatever. I'm Batman. It's great.
But all right, so you grabbed this last one, so I will let you.
Oh my God. Okay, so within a few minutes of the show airing, the new head of like DC development at like Discovery has announced that the Batgirl movie. You know how we were always like, where is Batgirl going? Like, it could come out in theaters. It's coming out on HBO Max. Actually, it's not coming out anywhere ever. They're shelving it forever. It's done. They spent $90 million, and they're like, no, we're not going to make this movie. We're not going to release this movie ever. It's not going in the direction we want. We're not interested. The movie's over. Batgirl's dead.
How much did they film of it?
I think they filmed the movie. Like, I think this movie is, if not 50, 75% done at least.
That's a lot of money to invest and then pull the
$90 million. Now,
like, we were just talking about this before we went live that I'm pretty sure DC Super Pets had a budget of $90 million.
Right. But that was for children.
Why would you not?
Here's why.
This has got to be some sort of like publicity stunt.
CEO David Zaslav said they're committed to making DC titles big theatrical event films, and quote, Batgirl isn't that. They say they do like the directors and the star, so they're going to work with them one day, but not on this.
I feel like that's a lot of money and a lot of time to put into something to then go,
Nah.
This isn't what I thought it was. Like,
I don't know. I mean, like, the fact is the movie supposedly is done, if not done enough. Done enough where it's like, we got to put the special effects on it, but like it's mostly people in costumes, so it's not like we're creating entire CG environments here.
Right.
But I'm concerned because for them, it means, because for him to say that they're committed to making big budget theatrical experiences or whatever, the quote is big theatrical event films. That means that $90 million isn't enough. That means that that means that the mid-budget action movie, the mid-budget superhero movie still won't exist. And that is such a problem because most of these movies will make $200 million plus, right? They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to make at least a certain amount. There is a floor to how much these superhero movies can make just from name recognition and genre alone. And I think that when you balloon the budgets to $250, $300 million and more, you run the risk of making it too hegemonous, too uniform, and too safe. But when you try something different, I mean, you get things like the Suicide Squad, which didn't make its money back, and I think that might be their problem. They're looking at this from a perspective of like, the mid-budget superhero movie doesn't work. Or at the very least, we can't make them without losing our shirts. So, yeah. And then you have to look at like what they're doing next. You know, like Batgirl was, I think it was in production deliberately to come out on Disney or on HBO Max.
Yeah.
So that idea gone. Like they're not making movies for HBO Max anymore. That idea is like, forget it. Which means Jaime Reyes better watch his ass. Because that movie ain't $300 million. I don't know. The fact that they canceled this Batgirl movie, I think that it also it means the death of the mid-budget superhero movie, but it also, I think, means that Flash might be next.
And I could see that.
If it isn't next, maybe what they're doing. Ooh, what about this? They canceled the Batgirl movie to save money on, like, you know, everything else about it, even though they spent probably, let's call it $80 million, $90 million in this movie. They're like, well, no, we're going to need like $90 million in reshoots to make Flash come out. Because we need like a new actor and a new ending. So you think
they're going, hey, we need this budget over here.
Right. Like we need to allocate it over here because like we don't even know, because Batgirl, right? It had Snyder Cut James Gordon in it. And it had Michael Keaton Batman in it.
So hold on, was this was supposed to come out after Flashpoint and be...
We don't know, and I don't think they did either, and I think they were like, what even is this?
I wonder if that's where... I could definitely see that. Like, I wonder if the Flashpoint situation with Ezra Miller, like, everything related to that and kind of making the direction forward iffy has made these guys a little iffy as well, because they're like, well, it's kind of hard to go forward when the ground you're currently on might not be there tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, like, how can we possibly release this movie that is the postscript to this calamity that we're planning on releasing in theaters? And by the way, my point is, I know the money was spent. You need to spend money to finish and distribute a movie. Yeah. When people talk about like how much a movie makes, the rule of thumb according to this is typically double the budget, and that's how much the movie has to make to break even. They usually spend like double the cost or the cost of the movie on marketing. So if the movie's done and they don't market it, then they've already saved themselves $90 million.
Yeah.
So that's me just reacting to the chat, but I
completely agree.
Who know that already?
A lot of people hear, "Oh, it was already done filming. Why don't they just release it?" Because there's a lot more that goes into that. Like,
yeah, they have to finish it, clean it up, put up the CG. They have to distribute it. They have to pay distributors, and they have to market the movie, and it will cost a lot of money, like about as much as it costs to make the movie, to finish it. And so, if they're like, man, no, the movie costs $90 million, but it's going to cost like $180 to $200 million, all things considered. to make this movie come out. Instead, let's just cancel it now. Somebody asked why they don't HBO Max it. They were going to do that. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Now it's not coming out ever anywhere. Amazing.
I would not be surprised if we hear something else about this after we know the definitive
I don't think so.
What's coming out of Flashpool.
I mean, the fact that the announcement
Flashpoint.
Batgirl won't fly. Warner Brothers Discovery has no plans to release nearly finished $90 million Batgirl movie. The fact is, right. I genuinely think that this is the word. Like, the word is, this movie's not coming out. I'm sure the actor and the directors will be like, oh, and they'll have their own opinions about it, and they're free to say whatever they want, and I'm sure they will. But as far as Warner Brothers Discovery is concerned, they're like, this is the word. Like, the movie's not coming out. Stop asking us about it. By the way, just for fun, release the movie. Like, release the files. Like, leak the movie. Right? And see what the internet does to complete it.
I mean,
that, you know what I mean? Like,
honestly, that plus this. If we see some sort of campaign, probably not a campaign, but if I see a release Batgirl or release the Batgirl cut, this is marketing. Oh, 100%. If that's kind of hashtag starts coming out, because that's free marketing and that saves you the money. But what I was getting at was more, once they figure out the Flashpoint, they will know what scenes they need to reshoot and whether or not it's actually possible to kind of go back to this and go, let's remove some of this. We did spend this much money. Now that we know, we can get an actual ballpark of what we need. But honestly, this is
it's not good looking.
It's not good looking.
It's bad optics for them to have made a movie starring a female person of color in the Bat family and to have spent $90 million and have them go, nah, it's done, but we're never going to release it anywhere ever. And we have like a content farm app that we're trying to get people to subscribe to, and we're not going to use it to like as a magnet. Mm-hmm. That says to me that either the movie sucks or it is such a complicated mess over there for them that they're like, this only makes it worse. Like, this is not part... And hopefully it means that they have a plan. Mm-hmm. You know, that they're like, oh, no. Like, the fact that Batfleck is going to be in the Aquaman 2 movie means that they have a plan, and this movie does not fit into that plan. I don't know. But
I don't think there's a plan. I honestly think
that's a fair
so
assessment
many
to
of
make.
These things are legitimately them going, okay, Ezra, stop. Just stop.
Stop everything.
Let us do damage control on what's going on, because they dug themselves into a hole by trying to make everything so interconnected, and now they are finding out the downsides to having everything connected. Yeah. Where at the end of the day, none of these had to be.
No, they didn't, but for them it did, because they were like, no, we're going to be drawing comparisons to Marvel. We have to. They believed that they had to make it connected. And the problem that they had, I think, the mistake they made was that they thought that it was self-explanatory. They thought it was easy. Mm-hmm. And it requires a lot of work and oversight. Like, there's a reason why the Universal monster thing didn't work out. You remember the dark matter or dark universe or whatever with like the Mummy and the and Dracula and stuff with Johnny Depp and Tom Cruise and everybody. Like, there's a whole interconnected universe about monsters that they were going to make, and they did this stupid cast photo of everybody with like Russell Crowe and everybody, and like that movie the first movie came out and they went, nah. Like, it's hard. It requires oversight, planning, money, and accountability, and Warner Brothers just wasn't interested in worrying about all that. Or they were, but they were like, oh, but if things aren't immediately successful, then we have to course correct immediately. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's not the right lesson either. So, I mean, this is certainly a Warner Brothers move, despite the fact that it's Discovery. Is oh no, this isn't what we wanted. Course correct. Throw the whole movie away.
I just can't believe they're getting rid of the whole thing.
I know, especially because it's done. Like, I get why Sony should stop filming Madam Web right now, but I don't get why Warner Brothers is throwing an entire finished Batgirl movie in the garbage.
Because the thing that baffles me is like there's one thing of going, hey, we're just putting this to the side for the moment. There's another of going, it's not coming out. Just straight up canceling. Like, that's a bold move. So that's crazy.
I know. I can't believe it. I've never seen anything like this before. And, you know, we live in unprecedented times, man. Here we are. Another crazy thing that a movie studio did that would never have done before. Or maybe does, but only behind closed doors. Amazing. So that's exciting. Hey, no more Batgirl movie ever. And who knows why? Maybe we'll get a statement about like the motivation behind it. But them just saying, we're still interested in making blockbuster event films, but this is not one of those things. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I mean, like, I think they mean it's like maybe it was too intimate and like small. Like, I mean, they lost money on the Suicide Squad, which was big, but still genre-based and clearly directorially driven. You know, it's like it had a clear voice. And that Birds of Prey movie, which also had a clear director voice and also had like it was a smaller story, you know. I think that they were like, we can't afford another Birds of Prey. And so that's where we are, you know. And of course they also know that they have a turkey on their hands when it comes to Flash. They're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you made a Batgirl movie. Like, while we were trying to figure out what the hell to do with this Flash movie, you went ahead and made like probably a very clearly driven like director's voice, you know, intentional movie that has a really like distinct feel, and that doesn't make us $1 billion.
It's funny because I bet when they were discussing this, the Batgirl thing, they were probably in that like a room discussing it, and what they had two directions. They could go in the direction with Michael Keaton, the Flashpoint event, all of that, put him in there.
Yep.
Or Robert Pattinson, the Batman, have it connected to that. Could you imagine if instead of this being like in that one, if it had turned out the Batman 2 had Batgirl in it?
Right.
Batman and Batgirl.
Yeah.
Like it could,
but it can't be this Batgirl.
It can't be this Batgirl anymore. Like this is just.
Well, and the Pattinson thing, I think it's pretty clear. Like, Joker is its own thing. The Pattinson movies are their own thing. Yeah. Aquaman is part of the DCEU. You know, Batgirl was the what factor? Yeah. You know, the Suicide Squad, part of the DCEU.
Well,
you know, like there's
the Batman, I feel like, is kind of in that situation of it wasn't, but it did so well that they're like, how could we make this part of the main universe?
Yes, absolutely. No, I think you're right about that.
That's
where we are.
That is where we are, but we don't have any more topics here for today. But
that's enough.
Yeah, I can't believe that happened just now, though.
I know. Apparently, the article came out at 1 in the afternoon, but like maybe that was Pacific time.
Fun. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching to today's episode of Absolute Comics. He is Sal. I'm Dan. We are sponsored by G Fuel. Be sure to use code COMICS at checkout to save 10% on your order. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are trying to hit that 100,000 subscriber mark, and you can help us do it. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you all next week.